And, you know, we were able to sign up, and it was 2 for 1. So my mother only had to pay for one kid, and we had a chance to play. And, you know, it just back then, baseball was, I wouldn't say it's equal to basketball in Indiana, but it had a huge footprint in the inner city. It was a huge, Little League was thriving when I was coming through the Little League system in the late 70s and early 80s. So, you know, I just made sure that I played both. I knew Indiana was a basketball state, so I wanted to play basketball. But I always had the love for baseball, and that's something that my brother and I, we always played baseball because of that 2 for 1 situation that we had at my Little League. And the whole time we played baseball, we always had 2 for 1. And then it became the whole family. You pay one price, and, you know, everybody in that live in that household gets to play. And that was pretty cool, because I don't know if I would have been able to play without that 2 for 1 special that we had. But it was challenging once I got older and got better at basketball. I played basketball for 4 years in high school, but I only played baseball for 2 years. And the higher you go up in baseball, when I was coming through, Gary, the less my peers were interested in it. It just started to fall off. And there was no baseball money at my high school. My high school baseball field looked like a unattended track. We didn't have a fence. You hit the ball as far as you could. School baseball coach was our high school football coach. He took the job because nobody else would take the baseball job. And he didn't know anything about baseball. It was probably about 4 guys on my team, me, my brother, and 2 other kids that had played all the way up into high school. And, you know, I would pitching or catching or playing shortstop, and I would come in and have to keep score. And then I finally taught my brother how to keep score. And then we taught another one of our buddies to keep score. So now we had 3 people that could keep score, but we all were in the game trying to, you know, remember what happened and come back and try to keep score. And I remember, like, the 2 years that I played, I would call the newspaper and give them the stats, because my coach Kirk didn't, and he was a football coach. And right. I you know, it took me a long time to recognize, to understand that he did the best he could. And without him, we probably wouldn't have had a team, because he took time out of his busy schedule to take a challenge on us, something he didn't know anything about, baseball. And I commend him for that. But baseball just wasn't that big of a deal. And when I was younger in Little League, it was. But the higher I went up, my grandfather would take me to, we had tryout camps over around Northwest Indiana. And Gary, you guys know what Gary is, right on Lake Michigan. So my grandparents' house where I grew up, I tell you, we're probably about 10 minutes from the Illinois-Indiana state line. So we would go to Chicago and go to the colleges, and the Kishwaukee Junior College, and the pro teams would have tryouts there. And I would go, my grandfather would take me on Saturdays. And that's how I I was able to get seen in baseball, because of my grandfather actually driving me over into Illinois, going to those camps on the weekends.
Yeah, that's an awesome story. Everybody grows up differently and has their own experiences. And just to piggyback off of that, I think you pretty much answered the question. But, you know, who was your biggest supporter growing up? And the reason why I asked this question is because I feel like, you know, everybody has their own dreams. For us, most of us, is to be at the major league level or become Major League Baseball players or coaches. I feel like you need to have a supporting cast or a family member, or someone to push you to keep pursuing your dreams when times are tough. So I guess the question is, you know, who was your biggest supporter growing up?
I think, like, in my household, my biggest supporter was probably my grandfather, but my mom, my grandmother, my grandfather, they didn't play sports, and their parents didn't play sports. You know, it just wasn't in them. My mom enjoyed sports, but she didn't play it. My grandfather enjoyed sports, but he didn't play it. He knew nothing about sports. Like, I mean, he enjoyed watching because, you know, people were out there competing, but, you know, he grew up working on cars, and then he worked in the U.S. Steel Mill in Gary, Indiana for 39 years. So he was, I mean, he was a working man. I mean, he worked. He didn't sports. He looked at as recreational. And I don't know if you go. I remember him telling me, I don't know if you can have a career in sports, son, but there's some other things you probably need to learn how to do just in case it don't work out. And and none of it had to do with working on a car or working at the steel mill. He never wanted me to do the things that he did. So my grandfather was one of my biggest supporters. And then once I became a serious athlete, I started to see a lot of potential. My father wasn't in my life because he didn't live in Indiana, and where he grew up was probably 10 minutes from where I grew up. It's called East Chicago, Indiana. And actually, you guys know Kenny Lofton. Kenny Lofton is from East Chicago, Indiana. And his buddies that he grew up with, really good friends with, they were my high school basketball coaches. So I had a group of coaches that were like my father. I mean, they made sure I was at practice. They made sure they picked me up for practice because we used to practice at 6 o'clock in the morning before school started at 8:30 on Monday, Wednesday, and Fridays. They picked me up. One of them took me home. If I was hungry, they fed me. On the weekends, I spent some weekends at their house. So I had a foundation. I was insulated by Coach Ivy Brown, Coach Kenny Monroe, Coach Joe McClain, called him Tana Joe, and my grandfather.
That's awesome. Yeah, like I said, I just think it's very important because when times get tough, you don't have anyone pushing you. It's tough to keep going, keep pursuing that dream.
It is. My grandfather didn't push me. Son, get your education because that's something that they'll never be able to take from you. I mean, right. Baseball and basketball could be gone tomorrow, but getting the education, they can't take that from you. And he didn't go past the 7th grade. He always had this joke. My grandfather had this joke that when your grandmother was in school, I was throwing rocks at the school. Say. When your grandmother was getting her diploma, I was throwing rocks at the school.
That's funny. What were some sacrifices that you had to make as a kid, in order to make your dreams come true? Obviously, at some point you realized you had the talent to make it to the next level. How did you find out that you had that kind of talent? And what sacrifices did you make to pursue that?
The sacrifices that I'm sure many of the young men on the call, and not just them, everybody. I see the ladies on here. Everybody got to make sacrifices. If you want to continue to push forward and accomplish your goals. And I didn't hang out as much as my friends did. I didn't because I was going to camps on the weekend or baseball camps or playing basketball on the weekends, and didn't go out at night. Because, it was coming back from a basketball game late and I was tired, or on Saturday nights, I couldn't hang out because I had to go to church with my grandparents. So we all have to make sacrifices, and just not athletes, everybody, we have to make sacrifices to reach your, and I didn't know it at the time, but when I went back and looked at my, my high school yearbook, my book that you write down all the stuff in, you have all your friends, sign and all that. I remember writing down my goals, and I pasted it in there. But I had written them in October of 1990, and one of my goals was to make the honor roll every semester, every marking period, my senior year, and I did that. Get drafted, I did that. And then the third one was just, excuse my language, just asinine, because I had no clue what to draft until I thought if I got drafted to be in the big leagues that year. That's just going back and reading it. It was just blew my mind, just the crazy thing. And then I went on to, getting married at 24 years old. 6 years out of high school was like my time limit, and just a lot of other crazy things. But so I did have goals, and didn't think about it, but I actually wrote them down and I put them in that book. And I, every so often I go back and look and I'm like, wow. So I was already thinking forward and setting myself up mentally for some of the things that I wanted to achieve early on in my life.
So you just talked about how, you wanted to get drafted. And so I guess the question leading up to that is, when did you know you had a chance? You said that your grandfather took you to Chicago to get looked at by scouts. When did you have, or start to have conversation with some scouts? Like, how did you know that it was almost could be possible?
You guys gonna laugh at this, I'm telling you. No clue, guys. I was oblivious to the whole process. Honest to God, true. I was completely oblivious to it. I remember getting some letters to my house and having to fill out this paperwork. Didn't think nothing of it. Didn't even know it was possible that, that it was a possibility that it could happen. I'm sitting in my government econ class my senior year and I'm taking a final. And I see one of the other students come in, give this little piece of paper to Miss Boone. And then she came by. She didn't say anything to me. She just politely put the little note right next on the edge of my desk and walked away. And it said, you have been drafted in the 7th round by the Minnesota Twins. We will be in touch. I mean, you would think I would have got excited right then. And I'm like, oh, okay, that's cool, but I need to be passing this final right now. Pass this final. Right. Well, I'll be in summer school and I won't get a chance to go to Gulf Coast League. So
you didn't even know anything. No one spoke to you, nothing.
No, they didn't. Like, the communication was completely different back then. Like, they sent letters to the house and I had to fill out each team's questionnaire, but that was about the extent of it. Like, I saw them come to my games, but they literally never spoke to me. I spoke to scouts when I went to those camps. Other than that, I didn't speak to them.
Wow, that's awesome. That's a pretty good story. That's interesting. That's different. So now you got drafted. You're with the Twins. You get to spring training. How was it back then? Or, you had Kirby Puckett, a part of the organization. You had Jack Morris, that was a part of the association, both Hall of Famers. Chili Davis was there. I believe Chuck Knobloch, it was his first or second year up there. What was that like?
I don't know. I was on the other side.
You're on the other side? Okay.
The minor league side. I didn't get a chance to meet any of those guys until it had to be 4 years later, probably.
Okay.
When you get drafted, especially out of high school, there's a good chance you're getting drafted in the middle of the season. So either you're going to go to Gulf Coast League, which starts in June after the draft, or you're going to go to a short season A-ball, which is equivalent to Coney Island, the Coney Island team.
Okay, the Brooklyn Cyclones.
The Cyclones, right. Yeah. So that's equivalent to that. They don't start until after the June draft. And a lot of times, most of the guys that get drafted out of college probably go there and play. And sprinkled in with a few of those guys that were already down in the Gulf Coast League or in the rookie league, they'll go up to the short season A-ball team. So, my process of getting a chance to meet Kirby and Chili Davis and Jack Morris, that was a pipe dream back then. That was a dream for me.
That's cool. That's awesome. In 91, when you got drafted, that was the year the Twins actually won the World Series.
Yep.
The question here I have is, as an organization, were you guys all involved with that? Was it all celebrated within the organization, or is that just like an MLB thing? Did they include you guys in anything?
That was my first year. I was still green as an apple, unripe banana, no clue. But I remember very vividly where I was when the Twins won the World Series that night. I was upstairs asleep, and my grandmother came upstairs, Troy, y'all won the World Series. And I looked at her and I said, what does that mean, Ann? And I always think about, when I think about the 91 World Series, I always remember where I was at and what I was doing because I was upstairs asleep. And it was the last time the Twins actually won a World Series in 1991. Hadn't been back to the World Series since then. But I'll never forget my grandmother coming all the way upstairs and saying, hey, the Twins won the World Series. She was so excited. Like, she was excited like I was about to get a bonus check or I was getting a ring. Nah, Grandma, I don't work like that. I was at – they were at the top, and I was at as far to the bottom as you can get in Gulf Coast.
Right. Right. No, that's crazy. So, I mean, you were drafted at 19 years old?
18. I was 18.
18 years old. So, you know, what was life like as a teenager, you know, even in the rookie league?
You know what? When I first went, I was just remember being so unsure of myself. Coming from Indiana where we didn't play a lot of baseball. I mean, I played baseball, but we didn't play a lot. We were playing 30 games a year, playing probably about 17 in high school. And then over the summertime, we would probably hopefully get maybe another 30, so less than 50 games a year. You know, I was just unsure of myself when I started to see, you know, these guys fielding ground balls like they should be on TV already. Hard, guys with command, with breaking balls I had never seen before. Guys hitting the ball, you know, 400 feet. I was very unsure of myself because the competition I played against didn't even scratch the surface of what these guys were doing. They looked like big leaguers to me. So, you know, I always say it took me about 2 months to figure out that, you know what, I do belong here because I never had a pitching coach.
Right.
I watched the Cubs I watched Lee Smith come in the game when I got out of school for the day come to the game at 3:30. And then I would watch, you know, before I went to bed, I would watch the beginning of the White Sox game. So I'm trying to mimic what I was seeing from the pitchers on television. And that's how I got through my 2 years of high school playing baseball. That's how I got through, you know, playing in Little League, Legion ball by trying to mimic what I saw on television. I never had a pitching coach as an amateur. Never. It didn't even register. So everything that I was learning when I got to Fort Myers, Florida, where our spring training site is, everything was new to me. And I think that helped me because my brain was a clean slate. I was in the sponge mode. I didn't come from a place where I had a coach that was telling me to do one thing, and then I got to pro ball and somebody else was telling me to do something. I didn't have that back and forth in my brain. My brain was a complete clean hard drive. So I was absorbing everything in that I was being told. And I think being athletic enough and being somewhat smart enough, I was able to decipher what was going to work for me and what wasn't going to work for me. Not right away. That took a couple years to get to that point, but you know, I think I think that part I had an advantage just going in, just a clean hard drive.
That's awesome. You know, what was I know you were a big basketball guy, and I have to ask because I did some research and I saw some stuff about Michael Jordan with the Last Dance documentary coming out. You were actually one of the few pitchers that got to pitch against Michael Jordan, you know, at the AA level when you were with the Nashville Express. What was that opportunity like?
It was amazing because I grew up a Michael Jordan fan, and I'm still the biggest Michael Jordan fan. I'm a fanboy when it comes to that. I'm like, wow. So he was already in AA, and I was in 1994, and I was in A-ball in Fort Myers in the Florida State League, and I got called up a month into the season. And just so happened, that was the month, like the 2 months I was there, we played the Birmingham Barons the most while I was there. So we probably played them probably about 20 times in those 2 months. And growing up 30 minutes from Chicago Stadium, being a Bulls fan, we're in Birmingham one day, and I had pitched the night before, and we bussed to Birmingham, and I was out. I had my Walkman, so we didn't have CDs. I had my cassette tape, and I had my yellow Walkman. I had my headphones on. I went out of the stadium to go for a run, and I see this red Porsche flying down the road, and his music was so loud. and it was so clear that I could hear it over my headphones. And the song that he was playing was R. Kelly, Sweet Sadie, which is a remix from an old song that, our grandparents listened to.
Right.
And it was about 2:20. And I told myself, tomorrow this time, I'm not going to be running. I'm going to be at the gate waiting for him. Can't wait. I'm going to be waiting for him. So I remember getting back to my hotel room that night. I called my mom. I was like, Mom, I saw Jordan today. You talked to him? I was like, nah, because I was going in the opposite direction, but I'm sure he's a creature of habit. So he's going to be coming about 2:20 and I'm going to be there waiting for him. She was like, all right, have fun. I'm like, okay. Clockwork, 2:20. I'm standing at the gate. And he comes through the gate and I was like, hey, Mr. Jordan, how you doing? Like, how you doing, young man? I was like, I'm fine. I'm LaTroy Hawkins. I'm a pitcher with the Nashville Express. And I was wondering if I can have your autograph. And he was like, no, you can't have my autograph. Oh, okay. I was like, okay, cool. It was for my mom. but thanks anyway. He's like, oh, I'm just joking, man. Give me that ball. He said, where you live at? And he started asking me all these questions. And I tell you, I was sitting there just like, I was shaking, man. I'm like, this is Michael Jordan. I wore my socks like this, man, in high school. I cut my head bald because Michael was bald. I mean, I told him where I was from, and we started talking. Man, I used to have, a girlfriend in Gary. I'd go to the casinos over there. It was just, I've always spent a lot of time in Gary. I'm like, really? Okay, cool. So it was a 5-game series. So I pitched the 5th game of that series. And I told him, I said, hey, I'm going to throw you all fastballs because my mama told me to let you get a hit. And he was like, well, tell your mom I said I love her. I'm like, all right, cool. So that the last game of the series, I'm pitching and, I'm throwing him all fastball. And he hits a freaking triple off the wall. And I'm like, whoa, okay. All right. And then he got to third base and he winked to me. He was like, thank you. I'm like, all right, yeah, you still had to hit it. We played him a few more times, and he played right field. And one of my good friends, Timmy Moore, played right field. And when they came to Nashville Stadium back then was terrible, everybody. It was awful because we were the only team that shared the stadium with another minor league ball team. So Nashville Express was the Twins AA team. The Nashville Sound was the White Sox AAA team. So whenever we got ready to go on a road, we had to clean out our lockers completely every time we left. And the field never got a rest. So we had pretty much the worst field in baseball because it never got a chance to rest. And in right field, there was a big old dirt spot. They couldn't get the grass to grow there. And my buddy Tim Moore and Jordan used to play tic-tac-toe during the games.
That's an awesome story.
I was sitting in the audience in the stands one day and I was doing the radar gun and our minor league director was in town. And he was like, man, LaTroy, Jordan, he was like, man, that's the greatest basketball player ever to play right there. You think you could score on him? And I looked at Larry Corrigan, I'll never forget it. Larry is one of all-time scouts, minor league director. Are you crazy? Shit, I can score on anybody. He was like, you crazy. The greatest basketball player ever and one of the greatest defenders ever. I'm like, hell, he ain't too good. He can't go for a head fake. The very next day, we're playing catch. And I walk up to Jordan. I was like, Jordan, I said, MJ, I was in the stands and our minor league director asked me if I could score on you. He said, what you tell him? I was like, I told him I could. He was like, shit, you won't if I don't let you. I was like, but the Gary, Indiana in me was like, man, shut up. You crazy. But deep down, I was like, uh-oh, I'm in trouble. So we had a lot of encounters. I went to his house and watched one of the NBA Finals in 1994. Houston was in. So we went, it was me, my buddy Tim Moore, Chris Chelios, the hockey player, and Jordan were really good friends. So he would come and hang out. He was hanging out, and we all went to his house one night in Birmingham and had a chance to sit down and listen to Jordan talk more trash than anybody I've ever heard in my life. He talked more trash. Oh, it was good. It was good. And when you're around people and they talking trash, 9 times out of 10, it was like, he's arrogant. He is. He's, nobody talk that much trash, whatever. But when he was talking trash, I believed him. And he said, they only win in championships because I'm not playing. His exact words.
Wow.
I'll show you when I go back. I'll show you when I go back. And he went on to win, what, 3 more? He had it. So I was when I signed with the Yankees in 07. Sorry, I'm getting a little long-winded, but I got some
it's great.
really good Jordan stories.
Awesome.
And I flew to New York, and I was gonna take the physical and then fly back to Texas. Well, I get to New York, do the physical, EKG. We needed you to stay in town to take a stress test because we found something with your heart. I'm like, really? Okay, so now I got to go buy some tennis shoes, some shorts, a T-shirt, so I can do this stress test tomorrow morning. I got to get on the treadmill. So I check into the hotel. The next morning, one of the officials with the Yankees come pick me up from the hotel, and the hotel's walking distance from the hospital. So he was like, hey, I just saw Jordan walking to Barney's. Like, oh, Michael Jordan? He was like, yeah. So I said, do we have to walk past there to get to the hospital? He was like, yeah, we do. I said, let's go in there and see if he's still in there. So I go in, and he's at the counter talking to one of the ladies, and I waited. I didn't interrupt him. So when he turned around, I was like, MJ, what's up? He was like, what's up, LaTroy? Man, I could have died then and went to heaven. He was like, mother, MF, I'll still watch baseball. I'm a big Yankee fan. I'm like, I know you just signed with the Yankees. I'm all on top of it. Just because I don't play it no more don't mean I don't pay attention. I was like, okay, MJ. Now, I called my grandfather. I was like, Mom, I just ran into Jordan, and he knew my name. He was like it was yesterday. I mean, I was excited. I still get excited talking about it now. Like, I cannot watch that Last Dance without getting, all jittery because I had a chance to play against him. I shared the same field with the dude.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Hang out at his house. I had a chance to hang out. He called, and another time he called me over I wanted an autograph. I told him I still want that autograph. So he had his wisdom teeth taken out, and he was in the clubhouse in Birmingham, and he sent their clubhouse kid to come get me. And I'm like, what's up? You still want the autograph? And he had gauze all in his mouth. I'm like, yeah, what's wrong with you? I just got my wisdom teeth taken out, blah, blah, blah. Sitting there hanging out at his locker like it wasn't like I was hanging out with regular outfielder. I mean, it was just nothing to him once he, so he liked me, and I'm still a Jordan fan.
That's awesome. And piggyback off that, there was some rumors that some minor league teams were tipping pitches to Jordan. Any truth to that?
No, I didn't hear that. I told him I was throwing him all fastballs.
Yeah.
I punched him out a couple times, and I actually walked him once and then picked him off first base on the next pitch. Picked him off first base. So he had a hit off of me, but I think he had 3 punch-outs.
That's awesome. The next question off of that is, you're at the single-A, double-A level. What is it like getting called up to the next level? And can you explain what it's like for, from A to double-A or double-A to triple-A, then triple-A to the bigs? What's that like?
Oh, man, it's a really good feeling. It's a satisfying feeling because you put in so much work, man. Once you think you're putting in work in college to get better. When baseball becomes a job, you have no clue. 24/7, 365, trying to get better at your craft, at your position, or if you're a utility guy at multiple positions. And to do that, man, you have to be so mentally tough and so mentally open to learn new things. And the number one ingredient to that, you can't be afraid to fail. You can't be afraid to fail because guess what? It's baseball. You're going to fail at it. It's impossible not to. But once you get that call to that you've pretty much, I like to call it, you've exceeded enough at this level that we're going to give you a chance at the next level. And there's a sense of when you get that call in the office, your manager's going to tell you, you know what, you're going up to double A. Hey, Brian Scott, you're going up to double A. Okay. And you're elated. You can't wait to get, now you call your mother and father instantly. But back then you couldn't. You had to wait till you get back to your hotel room to make the phone call or to your house. And then it sets in like, okay, am I ready to make that jump to the next level? Because those guys are older, they're smarter, they're wiser, the strike zone's smaller. This could be a real challenge. So there's always an adjustment period once you get that call to go to the next level. Some guys go up there and dominate the next level. I can tell you what, that doesn't happen that often. It doesn't happen that often. So there's adjustment period. And I just think like you can't get too discouraged in the adjustment period. You can't. And every jump that you make, the competition is going to get tougher and tougher. But if organizations see, if you're in a good organization, they see that you're at the point that you're able to handle it, they're going to move you up. But a lot of organizations, they rush guys. And with our organization with Minnesota, we have this thing, just because you dominate at a level, don't mean that you're ready for the next level. Because you can dominate with just your fastball. Does that mean you're going to dominate with your fastball at the next level? No. So we want to see you mix in your breaking ball, use your changeup at this level, and then we'll let you know when you're ready for that next level. Because just because you dominated at a level doesn't mean that you're ready for the next level.
Some good words there. And then you had an opportunity you were a relief pitcher, you were a starter at one point. Can you kind of take us through your mindset at each position? So you knew when you were starting, you were pitching every 5 or 6 days. When you were a reliever, you would show up to the ballpark not knowing if you were going to pitch that day. Kind of take us through, your mindset or your thought process during that time.
Well, when I was in the minor league, I cruised through the minor league, dominated as a starter. When I made that transition to the big leagues, I never could figure it out. I couldn't my mind wouldn't let me let go of one start to the next. I would spend my whole 3 days, 4 days in between thinking about my last start. And I was never able to let it go and get to my next start without bringing over the negative vibes. And it reflected in my numbers. I mean, if you look at my numbers as a starter in the minor league and when I got to the big league, they were complete opposite. I was walking guys. I gave up twice as many hits, even though they're definitely the big leagues. But there was something I just could not go through a lineup 3 times and get guys out. Now, if they had an opener for me, I probably would have been all right. But trying to use my stuff that I had, my repertoire, my pitch mix to try to get through the lineup of a major league team 3 times, I didn't have it. I can say a couple things as a starter. I never missed a start. TK, Tom Kelly, our manager in Minnesota, he made sure that I got the ball every 5th day. He made sure. He was like, I don't care how you do. Stay healthy. You go out there. Everything you do is a learning experience. I don't care. It's a learning experience. Okay. It's always good to have a manager on your side and having guys on base. Because as a starter, at my numbers, I had a lot of guys on base. And when I went to the bullpen, I learned something real early on, that I had so many guys on base as a starter that I won't say I was immune to it as a reliever, but I was very comfortable in uncomfortable situations because I have been in a lot of uncomfortable situations as a starter. It took me a little bit to get used to being in the bullpen, grasping the fact that I can do terrible on Friday, May 8th, and be thrown back in the same situation on Saturday 9th. That took me a little while to get adjusted, being able to throw back-to-back days or throw 3 days in a row. But once I got past that, something clicked that, man, I'm much more engaged in the game day to day with the opportunity to pitch in it, as opposed to having those days in between where if I did bad, all I could think about was my last start when I got my behind handed to me by the Orioles. And I might have to face a good chance I miss a series, and then we go home, and then I got the Orioles again. In the bullpen, I never thought about that, and it never crossed my mind. My thought process in the bullpen was, they get me tonight, I got a good chance of getting them tomorrow night. I don't have to wait 4 days to do it. And if I got them that first night, there's no way in hell they was gonna get me the second night.
That's cool. That's awesome. We have a question here from one of our guys.
Sure.
You know, we have a couple of youth coaches on from Tri-Li Little League Baseball in Rochester, New York. And one of the questions is, how important is it for a young pitcher to learn a changeup or a secondary pitch?
It's very important, because the earlier you learn that secondary pitch, and preferably a changeup, the easier it is for you to throw that pitch. I'm not big on the breaking ball for young kids, and I'm just not. I just don't think, I don't care what the numbers say or what the doctors say, I just don't think you're not fully developed enough to put that type of torque on your forearm and your elbow. But we all can throw a changeup. We all can throw a changeup. We all can do that. So a changeup is a very good pitch. And I say this with a lot of confidence: the changeup is the best pitch in baseball, by far. Everybody talk about the curveball and all. No, the fastball, changeup is the best pitch, because a hitter they don't have a lot of time to decide whether it's a fastball or a changeup. And if they guess wrong, you're going to make them look bad.
That's awesome. Got another question from a former coach of mine, coached me my junior and senior year of high school. You know, you had a long major league career for 21 years. What would you say were your biggest keys to your success?
The biggest key for me was being able to make adjustments. And that's whether I was able to make adjustments in game or make adjustment over the course of. I never made adjustments until hitters made me make an adjustment. They made me, if I had to make it, I was able to do that. I did not shy away from changing something if it wasn't just because it used to work. I wasn't afraid to change. So making adjustments is the key. And being able to know your own body. Like, you'll get to a point, if you play the game long enough, you'll get to a point where you'll be your best pitching coach. You'll be your best hitting coach. If you can get your mind wrapped around of what you do well, you can be your best pitching coach and you can be your best hitting coach. But if you stay in the realm of you don't know yourself, you don't know what you do well, you don't know what you do good, you're always going to be mediocre, always, until you learn yourself.
So it's really all about feel and knowing your body. Yeah, that's what we tell our guys too. Yeah. Now, moving forward, one of our pitchers asked, you know, what is the importance of the pitcher-catcher relationship? You know, what are some things that you did to, you know, improve that relationship on and even off the field?
That's one of the relationships that I don't care if you're an asshole or if the catcher's an asshole. Excuse my language, young men out there. I see the rules got a little bit, but that is, and DeLone, sorry, but that's a relationship that you should try to cultivate, because you need to be on the same page with your catcher if you want to be successful. There's something to be said when you and your catcher, your minds are like linking up, like Bluetooth. We didn't used to call it Bluetooth back in the day, but there's something to be said when you and your catcher and your mind are like Bluetooth. Y'all kind of know where you're trying to do or where you're trying to go with the hitter on this particular pitch in this particular count. And the only way you can do that if you get to know somebody. You have to get to know your teammates. And it doesn't have to be a catcher. You have to get to know your teammates. I don't care how big of an asshole they are. You have to get to know them. You have to know how they tick, what make them tick. You have to. It's the relationships on a team are the most important by far. You have to have a relationship. AJ Przinsky, you guys know him?
Yeah.
He came up with us. And you guys never played with him. What do you think about AJ Przinsky when you see him?
Catcher, big dude, can play.
Yeah, but, you know, when you talk to other players, like, he this, he that. They hated him unless you was on his team. But what people don't understand and fail to realize, AJ was highly intelligent, and AJ knew every pitcher in and out. He knew what to say to me when he came out to the mound to get me locked in, and he knew what he could say to certain pitchers that he couldn't say to other pitchers. And we had a great relationship. Willen Rosario used to be my catcher with the Rockies in 2014. 2013, he was like second in rookie of the year vote, and he had a lot of home runs, but he was just an okay catcher. And he, all the pitchers didn't like him as a catcher. They said he didn't worry, he didn't care about catching, he was lazy, he was this, he was that. And I'm thinking to myself, and I'm a veteran, so I know how to deal with every type of person. I don't care, whatever. You could be the guy that's reading the Bible to the guys, or you can be the guy that's, out doing drugs at night, running the streets. I can deal with everybody. I have no problem. And Willen, all the guys were talking about him. They were talking about him. I never let somebody else's opinion of somebody sway how I view the person. So I'm going to take the approach. I'm going to get to know Rosario. So I get to know Rosario. And what I come to find out is he's so mentally tired, not physically, but mentally tired at the end of the game, that's why he's not as good for our relievers as he is for the starters. So he's mentally tired. So I said, okay, Rosie, come here. This is what you and I are going to do. I'm going to call my own pitches. Not because I don't trust you. I trust you. I'm going to give you a mental break. I'm going to give you a mental break because I can see as the game goes, you start here, and when the 7th, 8th, and 9th, you're down here. And I know you're exhausted, so I'm going to take something off your plate to raise the rest of your game. And he said, okay, veterano, okay. So I gave him the signals. I showed him what we're going to do. And I called every time he threw the ball back to me, I did something different. I said, I only need one thing. I need two things from you. I need you to pay attention to me, and I need you to block the ball in the dirt. That's all I need. That's all I need from you. Okay, veterano. Me and him worked like a charm. I had a 2-some ERA. And every night, the guys, every day after the game, the bullpen guys were like, man, why does he block the ball and catch the ball for you? I said, we have a good relationship. You guys running around talking behind his back and not trying to get to know Rosario. I took a chance and wanted to get to know him and what makes him tick. And he understands what makes me tick. And we helped each other out. We wasn't fighting. We wasn't going this way. My job was to make us go in the same direction. So that's one of those situations where, getting to know your catcher and the catcher relationship, a catcher-pitcher relationship, thrive because we both were open to trying something different. And I didn't go to him making him feel like he wasn't smart enough or he didn't work hard enough. I didn't belittle him. I went to him and I wanted to help him do his job better. And I told the guys the way I phrased it and the way I presented it to him. Presentation is everything. It is everything. Even how you talk to your wife, how you talk to your parents, and how coaches talk to players, how players talk to coaches. The presentation is everything. So yes, having a good relationship with your catcher is paramount to your team success, not just yours, it's to the team success.
Sounds good. Great information there. A lot of New York fans over here because we're from New York, obviously, and
New York.
we had to ask this question. Obviously the media in New York heckles you. They get on you for anything. What was it like pitching in New York and, wearing number 21 and getting –
Oh, God.
How were you able to handle that adversity and just how were you able to overcome it? Because I could just imagine the feeling. Like, did you know that was going to happen? What was that like?
I had no clue. I had no clue that was going to happen, people. It still blows my mind to this day because I don't look at Paul O'Neill as being a good player. I mean, a great player. He was a good player. Not taking anything. he was a good player. But as far as a great player when nobody else can wear the number, I mean, that blew my mind. It still to this day. And then I changed my number to Roger Clemens, and they were okay with it. And they were okay with it. I mean, they booed me some merciful. Oh, and I remember Mariano coming to me. He's like, hey, Papi. He's like, hey, these MF are relentless. They are ruthless. They're going to do it every time. If you want to continue to take that, more power to you. But if it were me, I would change my number. I would change my number. I'm like, I said, Mariano, I ain't into pleasing folk. I'm sorry. I wore this number because of Roberto Clemente. I don't give 2 cents about Paul O'Neill. I'm serious. And I ended up changing my number because, much respect to Mariano. And then I left Mariano. I went to talk to Jeep. Jeep was like, Hawk, do what you want to do. But if it was me, bro, I would change it because they're not going to let up. They're not going to let up on you. I'm like, all right, Jeep. All right, Captain. I'm changing my number. So to Roger Clemens, they didn't care. But the sad part is that I always say this. Paul O'Neill could have nipped it in the bud because he was doing television for us at the time. He could have nipped it in the bud. He didn't. He didn't. He could have said, you know what? I appreciate you guys, feeling that way about me, about, somebody wearing my number. But, I'm giving him permission to wear my number. He probably don't need my permission, but if him giving me permission would help with the fans, that's what I would have did if I was on television. I would have did that. But no, he didn't. He didn't back me up at all for wearing that number. Not at all. They were relentless. I thought I was wearing Mickey Mantle's number. I'm sorry. I don't know, man. I'm like, shit, Lou Gehrig. I still can't wrap my mind around it. But, it's something to talk about.
Sorry, New Yorkers.
2020 during the coronavirus, right?
New Yorkers are crazy. Sorry about that.
Just on that side, I think on the other side, the Mets it's a completely different feel.
We got some Mets fans on here too.
Oh yeah, completely different feel.
Piggybacking off of that, you had an opportunity to pitch in every major league stadium. What would you consider, your favorite major league stadium to pitch in, or an even worse stadium to pitch in?
Atlanta. I love pitching in Atlanta. I like pitching in Wrigley Field. Baltimore was good. The old Yankee Stadium was good. The new and the old Shea, really good. Ballparks I hated. Oakland. Boston. Did not like pitching in Boston. It just didn't, and for me, it should have been an advantage. But pitching in Boston, you felt like you were right on top of the hitter. And then it was you, the hitter, and then right there was the backstop. So everything, the fans, everything was just so, it kind of like your depth perception was just a little off. It was weird. And it was so, everything was so close. The foul line was close to the fans. The dugouts were only so big. They wasn't that far away. Everything was so in close proximity. I did not like pitching in Boston. Not at all. Oakland was just old. Oakland was just old. Everything was just bad about Oakland. The bullpen, the clubhouse, the mound, not good at all.
Now, to follow up that question, was there a guy that you loved facing because you knew you just like absolutely dominated him? And then on the flip side, was there a guy you hated facing because he just had your number and he can hit?
I love facing Troy Tulowitzki, one of my teammates, and Matt Holliday. Those are the guys that I remember dominating against. And I think I did good against Mike Cameron too, possibly. But the guys I hated facing, and these guys just killed me when I was a starter and I was young. I was out there just completely overmatched when I was starting. Harold Baines, you guys, well, not everybody remember Harold, but he just went in the Hall of Fame. Harold Baines killed me. And Edgar Martinez, man. Edgar, both those guys hit 400 higher than 420 against me for their career with a significant amount of at-bats. So that lets you know I had no chance. No chance. Always the guys that, I did better against guys I knew what they were trying to do. But when you got a guy that's willing to hit the ball to left field, center field, right field, I mean, at that point, there's the odds of that are that good with the bat. The older I got, I used to tell myself, you know what, just throw the ball down the damn middle and let them decide what they're going to do with it. Because if you throw it away from them, they're going to shoot that ball to the other field. If you throw it in on them, they're going to turn on it. So in my mind, I was like, I'm going to try to throw it down the middle, make them, try to get them caught up in trying to make a decision whether they should turn on this ball or hit it to the opposite field. And, that split second of, that little doubt in their mind because, oh, he's not throwing to the corner, I might be able to get it. I know it sounds crazy, but that's how I had to condition myself because they were such good hitters.
Yeah. And piggybacking off that, personally, I love Ken Griffey Jr. and Torrey Hunter. And from my understanding, you have a pretty good relationship with Torrey, who I consider one of the best, defensive outfielders. What's it like for a pitcher to have one of the best defensive players have your back? Does it make things easier for you on the mound? Guy that, jumps through walls, dives for every ball. Like, what is that like?
That's one thing about those teams in Minnesota. We weren't really good because we were in rebuild mode for a few years, probably about 4 or 5 years. Our first 4 to 5 years in the big, we were in rebuild mode. And there's one thing that we did. We threw the ball over the plate and we caught the ball. So Torrey was great in center field. He won 9 straight gold gloves. But at one time we had Matt Lawton in right field, and we had Jock Jones in left, or Shannon Stewart. So we had a really good outfield. And I think our corner outfielders being so good, they allowed Torrey to be able to take a lot of chances because they were really good also. And Torrey had a chance to had an opportunity to take chances, knowing that he had some guys with some speed, just in case he did mess up. He had some guys that could, not make his mess up as bad as it could be. So we had some really good outfield. And I always said about Torrey wasn't the fastest guy, but what Torrey did, he had was his first step and his ability to get to where the ball was going. He had something. He had that sixth sense about it because he wasn't blazing fast. Not at all. He wasn't close to being blazing fast. Smart baseball player, and he had the uncanny ability to get to where the ball was going, which is not a lot of guys could do that. I look at one of my buddies, Kenny Lofton. Kenny was the exact opposite. Kenny was blazing speed, so sometimes he would take the scenic route. Torrey never took the scenic route. He could not just because he couldn't afford to. He just mentally in his first step always was taking him right to where he needed to be.
That's awesome. Yeah, you got to pitch in several playoff series, and even a World Series in 2007 with the Rockies. What's it like being at that stage in front of 40, 50,000 fans, just cheering for you or against you? How are you able to handle that adversity, and how are you able to overcome your nerves? As a pitcher, being in that on a stage.
I never got nervous on the mound. All my nerves happened in the process of seeing where the starter was, knowing it was about the time that the bullpen the phone should be ringing, leading up, that anticipation leading up to the phone call and the manager saying, get LaTroy up. That's where my nerves were. Once I got on the mound, I didn't have that nervous feeling. But the lead up to it, I was a nervous wreck. But once he said, Hawk, get ready, I was fine. But just the anticipation, that was it for me. Never went out on the mound and I was afraid. Never really cared about, the situation I was in. I tried to always try to focus out everything that was going on around me. And you learn to do that. I don't think that's something that you're built with. You learn to get to that point because of being in all the different situations you're going to be in on a baseball field. You learn to focus, at the task at hand, because essentially you only can do one thing at a time. If you're out there trying to do multiple things, it's gonna get away from you. It's impossible for you to be able to do that. So just being able to focus and understanding that, hey, if I ever stop feeling like I did leading up to that phone call, it was time to go home.
Right. That's good. Good information there for sure. Back then, baseball wasn't like it is today with all the analytics and shifts and all that stuff. So I'm sure you didn't have to pitch according to shifts. Did that kind of change your way of pitching later on in your career? And how were you able to adjust to that?
I told guys when I think my last 3 years, we really started to get into it. So 13, 14, 15. And I had enough data on myself and what the hitter had done against me personally that I kind of refused it. I'm like, no, because my fastball is different from Sergio's fastball, or my fastball is different from Jake's fastball. And I got video of showing that he doesn't hit that same ball off of me where he's going to hit it off of Jake from. I didn't like it. 2014 when I was with the Rockies, Walt Weiss was our manager, and I'm a team player, so we went out there, and a couple times I did it and I got burnt on it, and he could see that I wasn't too happy. I mean, I didn't throw a tantrum or anything, but he could tell I wasn't happy. So he called me in the office and said, hey, you've been doing this a long time. You're the only person on this staff I'm gonna give an option if you want to shift or not. So you let me know if you want him to shift. I was like, okay. So I didn't use the shift. I went away from it just because it was one of those situations that I had enough data and enough at-bats against these guys that I kind of knew what they were trying to do to me. And it worked out in my favor. And I would turn around and tell my second baseman, I would, put my hand down on my glove and told him to move over towards first base because I'm about to go in on this left-hand hitter. I did my own little movement sometimes. I would tell Tulowitzki, hey, go over in the hole. I'm going in on him right here. And you know what? If I executed my pitch, he was definitely going to hit it where I wanted him to hit it to. But if I didn't, that was on me. If I left that ball over the middle of the plate and he hit it up the middle, or he hit it and Tulo couldn't get there because I moved him 2 steps over and he'd have stayed where he was, he would have got it. I chalked that up on me because I didn't do my job. Had I done my job, Tulo's job would have been easy.
Right. Good thing. Good stuff. Your favorite manager, you were able to play for many different ball clubs. Your favorite manager to play for, and why is he your favorite manager?
My favorite manager, I'll always have nothing but love for Tom Kelly. And he's a New Jersey guy. TK, Tom Kelly's from New Jersey. And, where I come from, people are just upfront. Like, we're Midwesterners, but we got some New Yorker in us. Like, we're not going to sugarcoat anything. And I appreciated that from TK. I did. Where, some of the guys who grew up different than I grew up, they took offense to it. I didn't take offense to it. TK was just, he told you how he felt. He didn't care about how you felt. He just told you how he felt. You can take it or leave it. And I appreciate that. And TK liked LaTroy Hawkins. He really liked LaTroy Hawkins because he would call me in his office. I don't care how bad I sucked on my day to start. He called me in the office. You keep pitching your ass off, young man, all right? It's going to work out for you. Now, and TK ran our organization. He would tell me, those guys in the front office want you out of here. But as long as I'm here, you'll be here. You keep up your end of the bargain. You keep working your butt off every day, every start. And if I see you slipping, your ass going to be out of here. I would walk out his office, and I didn't know if it was a good meeting or a bad meeting. but I did know TK was in my corner. And at the end of the day, if you got a coach that's in your corner, you want to do everything you can, young man, to make sure you don't let them down. And TK was in my corner. So TK being my first manager, and I remember when he called me in October 2001, I can't remember the date, but he called me and told me he was stepping down. And it was almost, I felt so bad that I kept asking him, I was like, TK, what did we do wrong? What did we do wrong that you wanted to, you're going to leave us, you're abandoning us? And he's like, it has nothing to do with you guys. It's time for me to walk away from the game.
Yeah.
I poured my everything into you guys. You guys will be fine. You'll be fine. I promise. Because I didn't think we were going to be all right without TK. And, he told us that we would be, and I trusted him, and we were. But, as far as the coolest manager I ever played for that had your back no matter what you did that was wrong, he was going to fight for you like your parents fought for you. And then when you get back home, he was going to get in your butt, was Dusty Baker. Dusty going to fight for you. You don't care if you're wrong. I don't care if you did wrong. When you're in my presence and you're on my team, you're my kid. And I'm going to fight tooth and nail, whether you're right or wrong. But he's always said, but you best believe when we get back behind closed doors, we going to have an issue. Okay. So Dusty was probably the coolest manager because he related to every player. Like and I played for him in Chicago with the Cubs. And when I would go home over to Gary, which is like 32 miles from Wrigley Field, all my buddies, all my grandparents' friends, all my uncles and aunties' friends, they would all ask me, how is Dusty Baker? How is he? Is he just as cool as he look on TV or the way in the dugout or how he talks on television? I'm like, he's cooler than that because Dusty can go to the White House or he can go on Congress, on Wall Street, and you don't know he don't belong. Or I told him he can come out here and stand at this corner store we at in our neighborhood at the liquor store and hang out and drink with y'all. And y'all would think he was born and raised here. So, I always tell Dusty, he can go from one spectrum to the next.
Awesome.
My brother wants to get on. Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
He wants to get on. I've been trying to do it for like 10 minutes. I'm trying to do it on the low.
It's all right. I was thinking about, getting off soon. I don't want to take any more of your time.
No. Keep going, guy.
We have a question from John Scheibel, and he's asking for advice for a young pitcher. What do you attribute your longevity as a pitcher and staying healthy? What are some of the things you did?
First off, I wasn't a kid that played a lot of baseball growing up. So I always say I didn't have a lot of miles on my arm. I came from the Midwest. It was cold. I played other sports where when you have the kids coming from Texas and Florida and California where they're playing all year long, I didn't have that. And I found out very early on, probably my second year, that the harder that I tried to throw, the softer it came out. And I remember working with one of my pitching coaches. I was like, I'm going to just try to play catch. He looked at me. He was like, oh, we've been telling you that since you got here last year. Just play catch. Just play catch with your catcher. I'm like, okay. And I wanted my mechanics to be stress-free. I didn't want it to look like I was actually trying to throw max effort. And, being tall and long and lanky, that definitely played into my favor that I was able to go out there and go 100%, but look like I was going 50% and still had life on the fastball and still able to throw my breaking pitches. But, my advice to a young pitcher is just, overthrowing that's detrimental to your shoulder, to your knee, to your elbow, to your hips. Nice and easy, just playing catch. I can guarantee you're going to throw a lot harder when all your muscles are at their most relaxed state as opposed when they're all tensed up. I can guarantee you that. Guarantee. There's not many things I can guarantee, but I can guarantee you that. Your body works better when it's in its most relaxed state.
Good stuff here. I got a question from my buddy I've coached high school football with. with the way things are now, how long do you think it'll take for the game to be back and running with all this time off? Do you think that there's going to be a season? And what's some inside information you can possibly give us to see if we'll start up again?
Yeah, we had our all staff call yesterday. We do it every 2 weeks on Thursdays, and we have a lot of different things in place, but none of them will be implemented until the government opens up, like when it's going. So there's a lot of things in place. They have a lot of different scenarios. And believe me, when the media comes out and says, oh, this is what's going to happen, it's the complete opposite. It's the complete opposite. But as of now, there is no set date. I know somebody said June 7th. I'm on meetings every day at 11 o'clock with our scouting director. We hadn't heard June 7th. But I did hear there's a debate whether teams are going to go back to their spring training sites and get ready, or they're going to they're going to stay in their respective cities and get ready. That's definitely in play. Where are we going to go to do spring training? And spring training is probably going to be about 3 more weeks. As far as the minor league season, if I was a bed man, I would say it probably won't be one.
Right.
Which is sad because it just COVID, man, it just touches every sector of life, man. Every sector of our lives. It's been hard, man. There's a lot of young people that are gonna be affected. And I'm not saying just young people, but I'm talking about as far as, athletes who, were on the verge of, making some real strides or being able to set their put themselves in a good position to be drafted. This affects everybody, man. It's sad, and we don't have any answers for it. We do know one thing, that the draft is probably going to be 10 rounds this year, maybe 10 rounds.
That's what we're hearing.
Yeah, and that's there's 30 other rounds of guys that probably don't get a chance to play professional ball this year. And I think that's just that's sad. That is just terrible. It's terrible. But, we're not the only people affected by it. In the grand scheme of things, could be a lot worse. We could be one of the people who caught the virus and passed away. I mean, I get it. I understand.
I got a question from one of our former players, and I actually have a video up on my phone right now. They call it the immaculate inning when you have 9 pitches and 3 Ks.
Yeah.
And you did that against, the Florida Marlins. What was that like?
Guys, I'm much more into all that stuff now that I retired than I was when I played. And I was like that. I never looked at the stats. I never looked at my stats. Only stat I knew is how many scoreless innings I had. I did know that because at some point during the season, I wanted to reel off at least 12 to 13 scoreless innings because, in the bullpen, you're going to need that if you give up a crooked number to get back to where you needed to. So I always made sure that 10 to 12 to 15 scoreless innings, at some time, I was going to need that. But I never looked at the stats. Nope. But I lost my train of thought. Jesus. Oh, yeah. So it was September 11th, 2004. I was with the Angels in 2012, and I was signing autographs at Disney. And this guy walks up and hands me a ball. He's like, can you sign it? Immaculate inning, September 11th, 2004. And I'm like, what is an immaculate inning? 8 years later. And he told me, and I was like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool. So at the time, nobody with the Cubs celebrated it. I mean, it wasn't even talked about. I didn't read the newspaper, so if they said it in the newspaper, they probably did, but I didn't read the newspaper. None of my teammates, not even myself, we never even thought about it, like immaculate inning. Now that I'm retired, and I got a good friend, Marvin Freeman, he puts it on his Instagram from time to time because he's like, that's like one of the coolest things ever. And the way you did it, I'm like, I did it the same way everybody else do it. I threw 9 pitches and got 3 strikeouts. But man, it was just cool. I'm like, okay, but now it's something I could be proud of. When I was playing, I didn't have time to sit back and think about my accomplishments and things that I was proud of. I was at the race for the finish line.
Got another question from Jose Lopez. You present well on camera. Is there a TV analyst career in the near future?
Well, thank you, Jose. But I do work for Fox Sports North in Minnesota. So I do a few games during the season, but that's only regional. But if you have the MLB package, then there's a good chance you can hear me if you got the package. Yep. But so I do about this past year, I did 19 games this past year, and I was slated to do 25 this year. So I won't get more than 30 games. I won't allow myself to do more than 30 games.
Right. I gotta ask this question because I did some research, and I'm a big football fan myself.
Yes, it's true.
Yeah, Patrick Mahomes' godfather. What was that relationship like with his father, who you played together in Minnesota? How did all that come about?
Yeah, my rookie year, I lived with Pat Mahomes and Scott Erickson.
Okay.
And they took care of me. 3 of us were starters. And I remember we were at the, was Lifetime Fitness playing basketball. And Scotty was like, you know what, guys? You know what's ironic about, the 3 twin starters playing basketball right now? You're 0-4. I'm 0-2, and he's 0-3. He was like, we're 0-9 together. We out here playing basketball like we're basketball players. I'm like, hey, you right. But yeah, Pat, I remember when we were all together hanging out, and when his mom and his dad told me that they were pregnant, and we found out it was going to be a boy. I remember our times together when he was a little bitty fella in Puerto Rico together. We played winter ball, and we lived together, and Patrick didn't like to sleep, so I would stay up with him, watch TV all night until he finally went to sleep. But he was always different. He was always a special athlete. He was always a special athlete, and he was a better basketball player than he was football and baseball. He was a better
do you think that's because he grew up around athletes and being in the clubhouse? Does that have anything to do with it? What do you think?
I mean, that has a lot to do with his thought process and his ability to adapt to situations so fast because he was in that environment. But he's just a special athlete. Like, he's one of those guys that his mom is like hypermobile. So his knees and his arms and his fingers go in different directions. I mean, he got so much flexibility right here. He got some outliers that a lot of other people don't have. And when we talk about his athleticism, but when he was at Texas Tech and we'd be at the games and we're waiting on him and everybody's, that Patrick, man, he's an awesome football player. And I'm like, yeah, he's a straight A student in college. He has a photographic memory. He's a hell of a football player, but man, he is just as competitive in the classroom. And, attribute that to, he has a photographic. If he reads it, if he see it, he'll never forget it. And I remember his sophomore year, he threw an interception in the game. And after the game, we were at dinner, me, him, and his dad. And we just, we try not to talk football, but, when you're in Lubbock or any other big city, the cities where that's all they play on television, they played their interception. I was like, okay, so I saw that. Me and your dad saw that. Why didn't you see it? What did you see? And he said they disguised the defense. So when I let it go, I knew it was going to get intercepted. I was like, okay, so now how do you negate that? So it won't happen again. And he told me, it's like, Pops, it won't happen again. I got it right here now. It won't happen again. And I'm looking at him like, and it didn't happen again. Like, it was just like he saw it once and they were going to have to come up with something different. They couldn't run that again and pick the pass off because he remembered. And he's able to slow the game down and understand and see every movement from his guys and the offense and the defense, which is pretty incredible. And I'm not saying most quarterbacks can do that. The good ones can do it. And that's what separates quarterbacks from anybody else because their mind is just different. They're different. And he's able to know what his guys are doing and what the defense is doing. And he competes, man. He competed every day. Like, he's like his dad. Like his daddy don't miss an opportunity to compete. Like we could be flipping nickels and he want to compete. Like, you know, Michael Jordan was like, he didn't just want to beat you. He wanted to put his foot on your neck. Well, Patrick's dad, Big Pat is like that. I'm like that. And Patrick is like that.
Have that, gotta have that killer mentality, they call it.
Yeah. He has that killer mentality without talking. You know, his dad is a talker. His dad talks trash. Patrick, complete opposite. Patrick's going to do it until you look at the scoreboard.
That's awesome. I don't want to take up too much of your time, so I kind of want to end.
I got time, Bobby. I got time. What time we got? What time is it?
It's 8:20 over here, so it's 7:20 by you.
All right. Let's go about 20 more minutes. Let's go.
That's awesome. What are some words? You know what? I'll get to that last. That'll be the last question, Amanda. But we have a umpire here, part of our athletic staff. He's asking, people berate umpires and look forward to having certain umpires and having these umpires, not liking these umpires. What umpires did you like and why did you like them?
Oh, that's a good question. A lot of umpires came in when I came into the game in the big leagues in '95. So, and we were together in the minor league. So we had some type of relationship. We had a working relationship, not like giving me extra pitches or anything like that. We just had a relationship because, when I was in Double-A, they were in Double-A. When I was in Triple-A, they were in Triple-A. And we got to the big leagues, we got that together. But the umpires that I enjoyed the most are the ones that were able to say the next day, hey, LaTroy, I missed that pitch, bro. I mean, okay. I mean, I know they're not perfect, but at least go after the game and look at the issue that we had on the field to see if the player was right or if you were right. Or you come back the next day, hey, LaTroy, I looked at that pitch. It was a ball. And I always said, I was like, I appreciate you looking at it because it takes a special dude to go look at it to make sure he got it right. So I enjoyed the umpires. I mean, we just, sometimes in the heat of the moment, things happen. It's nothing personal against the umpire, even though it looks like that. But, in the heat of the moment, you say things that you don't mean to say. You get caught up in what the score is and you feel like you've been slighted and things go haywire. One of my least favorite umpires was Tim Cheetah. And that's because me and him had an issue about him putting his finger in my face. And I break his wrist if you ever did that again.
Yeah, that's a respect thing. I understand.
Yeah, right, a respect thing. But when I retired, my last game, Laz Diaz and his crew came in. I mean, they had the clubhouse attendant come get me and had a good chance. I sat in there and talked to him for about 25 minutes. They didn't have to do that, but it was pretty cool just listening to him, talk about me. And, they both, the ones that had me from my whole career, they talked about, LaTroy Hawkins and, 95 to 2000, then the LaTroy Hawkins from 2001 to 2010, and then LaTroy Hawkins from 2010 to the end. That was pretty cool. And you can tell that, it wasn't something they rehearsed or they wrote down. It was how they felt. And that was cool. That was pretty cool because, there's a mutual respect, but when they take time out of their day to call you in and just tell you how they've always, admired how you went about your business, that makes it much more special.
Do you think it helps that a catcher, the beginning of the game, talk to the umpire behind the plate, get to know who they are? Do you think that kind of helps a little bit?
It shouldn't help, but you never know. I mean, it shouldn't help. I mean, you speaking to an umpire or whether an umpire like you or not shouldn't determine whether, he does his job good or bad. But again, it's the part of the game that I hope Major League Baseball never changes. Never changes. I don't care how not perfect they are. It's still the human element that our game still needs.
I agree with that 100%.
As far as parents, just berating umpires, I've never understood why they do it. I remember when my daughter was playing basketball, we had to sign a contract, but to the referee. I mean, we had to sign a contract that we wouldn't heckle the referee. And when I'm at a basketball game, especially, their little AAU games, I'm calling travel. I'm like, oh, that's a foul, just because I'm locked into the game. There's no disrespect towards the to the referee. It's just, I'm a basketball fan. So when I'm watching the game, I'm just, I'm calling, oh, that's a travel right there. Like, I'm just saying it. Like, and I'm right there front and center. But I'm not saying it to spite anybody. It's just when I see it, I say it. And, sometimes they didn't like that. And I asked the guy afterwards, I'm not talking to you, dude. I'm a basketball fan. He said, why don't you referee then? I was like, that's a great question. I said, if I had time, I would. So, with that being said, the coaches, the parents that usually getting on the umpires, they're the ones that they got no clue how hard it is. They have no time to actually put themselves in a situation where they can volunteer their time to try to see how hard it is.
Right.
And they're the ones with the most chaos in their life.
That's a good way to put it. Now, as a major league pitcher, you guys have phenomenal control. Is there anything you see from a batter, or was there any batter that, you ever had the mindset of like, I got to hit this guy because he did something to your teammate and stuff like that?
So when I was with the Yankees in 08, they hit, we were playing against the Orioles, and they hit Jeter, and he had to come out of the game on his wrist. And I'm in the game. So the next inning comes up, Markakis. I had Markakis in 06 when I was with the Orioles and his rookie year. I'm not about to hit Nick Markakis. The next thing that comes up is Kevin Millar. Kevin Millar comes up. He was on my team in 06 with the Orioles. I'm not about to hit Kevin Millar. Those guys. So the third guy comes, and Luke Scott. Now, I didn't play with Luke Scott. Heard about him. Makes me feel better about hitting somebody because I didn't like hitting guys on purpose because I'd much rather get you out than putting you on first base.
Right.
So Luke knew he was getting hit. I throw the fastball, and he gets him. I don't know how he got out of the way. Well, I do know how he got out of the way because he knew it was coming. So now I miss. And I'm looking at him like, and he looking at me like, yeah, I knew that was on purpose. I'm like, well, I'm going to have to get you now. That you're not going to run. So I tried to hit him in the middle of his back, but it's hard to hit somebody that's know they're about to get hit. And I missed. And Chuck Merriweather was umpiring. And I remember he stood up and he didn't even say anything. He just threw me out the game. And I went off because no use to me arguing. I had no use to arguing. Hell, I know I was in the wrong, but I had to do it. And Luke Scott starts talking trash. F you, MF. I was like, shut up. I said, you didn't get hit. It's just 2-0 against you right now. Shut up. Jeter in the training room getting his wrist worked on. So I don't hear nothing else out of you. And then he acted like he wanted to do something. I'm like, hey, I don't prefer to fight on the field. I'll meet you at your hotel and we can have a fight. I don't want to fight on the field. But it was one of those things like that was. I pitched 21 years in the big leagues. Guess how many guys I actually hit?
I'm going to probably say 2 or 3, but you're talking. I don't remember. I don't know.
No, 21. So I hit a year. One guy a year. And
now, was that was that a mechanical issue, control, or obviously?
No, just pitching in. Yeah. Luke Scott is the only guy I ever threw at.
Okay, yeah.
The guy, well, I take that back. Soriano with the Cubs, I threw at him too. But I threw a fastball in. I didn't care if it hit him or not. Luke Scott, I was trying to hit him.
Right.
There's a difference. There's a difference.
Now, who would you say, was like one of your best teammates? Obviously everyone has, phenomenal things to say about, Derek Jeter, being in the Yankee clubhouse. How would you describe him? What kind of a teammate was he like?
Jeter?
Yeah.
Like, Jeter is one of the guys that what you saw on television and how you perceived him to be, that's who Jeter was. That's who he was. He was the captain. He embodied that. He was the ultimate teammate. When I signed with the Yankees, he's first person to call me. First person to call me. And I put Jeter and my boy David Wright right next to each other. You know, Jeter gets a slight nod, but David's right up there. David's a great guy too, a great teammate.
Now you got to play for the Yankees and the Mets, and they always talk about, you know, there's a Yankee way. You know, what's the difference between the clubhouses? And
I'm out on the Yankees way. I'm sorry. I think it was more like a not a cult, but it was like everything was Yankees. Like even the television, the TV wasn't on ESPN. They were on the Yes Network. Everything was about the Yankees. You couldn't watch anything else. It was like nonstop Yankees. I didn't like that. I didn't like that. I didn't. I didn't like that. Whereas opposed with the Mets, you know, you can watch MLB Network or you can turn on ESPN. It was just a little different. Just a little different. It didn't feel like they were trying to brainwash me. I was only there for a half a year, so I didn't want to be brainwashed.
That's good information.
Did it work for them? Yes, obviously it did. They won a lot of championships, but it wasn't for me.
You know, when you get
maybe if I went over there and I was younger, it probably would have been a little different. But I had probably 10 years in the big leagues, and I'm like, nah.
Were you able to talk to, you know, Steinbrenner? And if he did, you know, what was he like?
I spoke to him in spring training once. That was it. Just spring training. He was on his golf cart. He stopped to introduce himself, and you know, I introduced myself, and we talked for a couple of minutes, and then that was it. It was, I mean, the boss. I mean, that's the only experience I had with him.
That's cool. Well, like I said before, I don't want to take, you know, too much more of your time. And you know, my last question to you is, you know, if you had to leave, you know, a phrase or some advice for our guys, you know, what would it be?
Oh, my favorite phrase for myself is, you know, and I think it goes with life itself. You know, just become comfortable being uncomfortable, because life is uncomfortable. And if you feel like you're comfortable all the time, you're not taking any chances. So just get comfortable being uncomfortable, and persevere and push through, and if you want to do something, you want to achieve something in life, you know, it's not going to be handed to you. You're going to have to work and go get it. You're going to have some perseverance. You're going to have to fail to learn how to succeed. And don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to fail. Failing is not the end of the world. We all failed at something, and we all got back up and tried something different, or tried another way to do what we failed at and figured it out.
Well, that's great stuff. And that's great stuff. And LaTroy, I can't thank you enough, and we appreciate the time you spent to talk to our school. And that's all I got, Mike. I don't know if you want to finish it off.
Yeah, LaTroy, this has been phenomenal. It's just so great just to talk baseball in general, and I'm sure all of our guys appreciate it, especially with us being without it right now, both at our college and professionally. But it's just great to hear some inspirational stories and just knowing what's possible and what's out there if they go out there and get it. So you know, we look forward to our team returning to the field and getting back and starting to work on that, and hopefully sooner than later. So,
all right, guys, continue to get better. I mean, we're all doing our social distancing thing, but that don't mean you can't be working on what you need to work on to get better. Just because you're not playing games don't mean you can't get fundamentally sound. You got to continue to work, because when it's go time, it's gonna be go time. It's not like, okay, well, you know, oh, you're going to have like a month to get ready. No, at the amateur level, when it's going to be go time, it's going to be go time. So you want to be ready.
Thanks a lot, LaTroy. We'll send you a hat or a shirt or something. from our program. Thanks a
I'll
lot.
take a shirt.
No
No more hats
problem.
anymore. I'll take a shirt.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Thanks for having me, Bobby.
Thanks a lot. Appreciate it.
All right.